And welcome back to Late Night Lately, the late night show. I'm your host, Chad White. If you didn't know, this is the late night show for the website, cpluscomedy.com. Like I just said, it's the website. Go there. Did I say late night show? Did I mean to say late night podcast? I don't know. Welcome back. I forgot to do one last week. Actually, quite frankly, I had something to do during the day, and then I had something to do at night. And there was no time in between to go ahead and to record this show. So I do apologize. Oh my God, I just closed a window I needed to look at. Here we are talking about late night once again. Oh my gosh. Sorry, I just had a sip of liquid IV and oof. It's making me all burpy. Welcome back in episode 6. Nope. I'm on LinkedIn Logs for some reason. Episode 51. I've done more LinkedIn Logs than done late night latelys. There was a period of time when I just stopped doing both of those for a little bit. Dirty bit. It's been the late night hosts are still talking about, even though a couple of them are not, only a couple of them rather are in LA. The late night hosts are still talking about the fires, which is great. They're still talking about donating and stuff like that. Guests are talking about the fires and everything. When I was watching Good Morning Football this morning, and as one does, there was a. I thought that would get a bigger laugh from me. There was. I was looking at the crawl, the news crawl below the screen. And they just had a section called LA Wildfires, and they were showing all the numbers for the story, whatever they were talking about. I think they were talking about the Eagles. Well, they were covering the Eagles rather, because they're going to the championships. Excuse me. Yes, the championships this coming Sunday. They're participating. Meanwhile, my Cowboys are at home, about to hire a bad idea for a coach. So we're going to be bad again next year. Could have gotten Pete Carroll. He's on the Raiders now. Breaking news as of 5 minutes ago. I'll let you know when I'm recording this show. Immediately after LinkedIn Logs. So the thing is, what was I talking about? But I was watching The Crawl, and they were talking about all the teams that were donating, how much money they donated for the relief efforts. Falcons gave $1 million. The Rams gave $1 million. It was great to see all these teams chip in. Truly, if each team gave $1 million, that'd be wonderful. How much did Taylor give? Like $1 million? Like, yeah, if everybody who could gave like a crap ton of money, then that would really help out all these people who have been affected. And give to different, charities and stuff like that. Just hit the mic. Now, speaking of the wildfires, After Midnight came back for the first time. They were off for 2 weeks because of these wildfires. They did not join, even though they're not on the same network. They did not join Jimmy Kimmel in coming back last week. Which, look, again, I know Paramount took their time and they were just trying to make sure everything is safe and okay to come back, which is good. I do think it was just better to come back that first week and be safe or something like that. And be safe in that regard. But Taylor Tomlinson delivered her monologue talking about being happy to be back, and that was lovely to see. And then we have the Pod Save America hosts. The guys came down, including Jon Favreau, not the director, actor turned director. The Pod Save America. I don't have any benefits. I just got an email about benefits. I don't have any benefits. Pod Save America guys came down to Stephen Colbert's late show, rather. Excuse me. Late is now defunct. To talk about the new president's inauguration. Jimmy Kimmel Live had a great week. Oh, I usually talk about who's on this week. Excuse me. It's been so long since I've done this. For After Midnight, they had the wonderful, daring, amazing, so funny cast of Ghosts. I really love Ghosts. I think Ghosts is so funny. I know people do not like the American version of Ghosts, but I think it's so great, and I own the first 3 seasons. That's how much I love Ghosts. And I can't wait to buy season 4. It's just a fantastic show, and the British one is great too. Patton Oswalt, Mary Lynn Rice Cub, and Brian Posehn. See, this is great. Have a lot of people on. It's all right to have your newer comedians, but man, we have these heavy hitters in comedy. And then they also had, because Martin Luther King Jr. Day was on Monday, they also had one more episode, including Tom Lennon, Joe Manganiello, and Paul F. Tompkins. Why is my eye doctor texting me? I'm not a fan of that. I don't want to get here's a little thing. I don't want to get texts from companies. I don't want my what's it called? I don't want my barber texting me, reminding me of my appointment. I'll put everything on my calendar. I got it. Trust me. I'm a very organized person. Okay, Late Show. Colbert had the Pod Save America guys on, like I mentioned. And Michelle Yeoh and Britt Lower. I don't know if you're Lower or Lower. I just know that she's one of the higher actors. And John Dickerson. And Morris Chestnut and Drew Brees, but those are the most important people. And then Jimmy Kimmel had Fortune Feimster, James Marston, Danielle Deadweiler, excuse me. I got a little recess on the brain. Jesse Eisenberg, and then Jason Tatum, Don Cheadle, Leanna Morgan. But my favorite thing that he had on was Sterling K. Brown. During Sterling K. Brown's interview, he pronounced the word culinary in such a way that I did not know. I must be too poor to even pronounce it this way. He called it culinary, and I just went, that is such an insane way to say that. And he said it so matter-of-factly. It's like culinary. And I went, oh, it's Sterling. That's stupid. Then we had, The Daily Show. I forgot what happened on The Daily Show. Jon Stewart covered the inauguration. Why is Charlemagne the God? He was on last night's episode. I don't care to watch that. Triumph the Insult Comic Dog went to an anti-president march. It was a very funny segment, and I think this audience, this current audience for the Daily Show, as much as they love the wishy-washy nature of Jon Stewart, the both sides nature of Jon Stewart, they also don't, and they want to pretend like they know, older comedy stylings. They have no idea who Triumph the Insult Comic Dog is. I love Triumph. I think Triumph is so funny, and I will watch any project that Triumph is involved in. Robert Smigel is a very funny guy. So there we have that. Let's move on from the Daily Show on Late Night with Seth Meyers. He had the Taskmaster guys on, Greg Davies. I call them the Taskmaster guys. He had Greg Davies and Kristen Welker, who gave a great interview, and she talked about what it's like covering. And she's so effervescent. I really liked her, just being in a late night presence. I think it is because you only see this with the MSNBC people. You don't see it with CNN people, and I know this because I worked there. And you don't see it with Fox News people. MSNBC correspondents and anchors have personalities. Like let's look at Rachel Maddow. She's so wonderful. I just typed in her name. She's so wonderful, and so she's just able to carry a conversation. Chris Hayes is very good at what he does. I'm even saying outside of the studio. Kristen Welker was just great. Michelle Yeoh was very much clearly there for a little bit of time, because they during that episode, they did her segment first, and then they went to a desk piece. So it just seemed like there wasn't time to do a lot of. Speaking of that desk piece, they had God, what is his name? Jeff Wright. Jeff Wright did a segment called "Check the Scoreboard," which was very funny, and he talked about white men, New Year's resolutions, and black women. It was just a very funny segment where it just seemed like he never stopped talking, and there was some interjections by Seth Meyers. And then there's a video of Wally the cue card guy. He dropped the cue cards for Seth, and Seth talked about it. That happened during an episode, and it was very funny. The Leave Him Alone guy popped up, John Lutz, which was great. It's just an all in all a good week for Seth, as always. Then on the Tonight Show, Jimmy had on people like Bobby Cannavale and Sarah Silverman and David Alan Grier and Colin Jost, who talked about Scarlett Johansson's reactions to the jokes that were told during the joke swap on Weekend Update this past Christmas on SNL. And he also had the stand-up stylings of Deborah DiGiovanni and Questlove, who is a director. I believe he has an Oscar already. Has released 2 documentaries in the past week, I think. One is the Sly and the Family Stone documentary that's coming out, but he's not on this to talk about that. On Tonight Show to talk about that. He was on Tonight Show, got up from his drum kit, walked on over to the desk to talk about the SNL music documentary, which is premiering 3 days from this recording. I'm excited to watch it. I just yesterday finished the SNL 50 documentaries, the 4-hour-long episodes that they produced. I gotta tell you, it could have been longer. It could have been like 2 or 3 more episodes. Because this is, and I guess this is kind of SNL. I mean, kind of late night, but they covered 4 distinct time periods: the start, the 11th season, the sketch that everybody talks about, more cowbell, and I forgot the last thing they covered. I guess I have to go to Peacock to check it out. What is the last thing they covered? Because I had to watch the last episode while I was working out, unfortunately. Because that's all the time I had. Ooh, The Wild Robot is on Peacock. I cried during that movie. It's a very true story. I love it. It's a great movie. Where is it? Where's the documentary? Where's this thing? Why is it not promoted anymore? What's going on? Well, now I feel stupid. Now I feel like an idiot because I have to pull this up. Found it. Oh yeah, the writers. They could have had way more episodes. I would love to see more or do more behind the scenes. Like they barely scratched the surface. Anyway, that's all that happened this week in late night. Let's get on to a couple of stories that are very important. Dulce Sloan left The Daily Show in a move that I knew was coming. I figured this was going to happen. If you asked me 5 months ago, because she stopped appearing on the show regularly, and I assumed she was touring or working. But this is according to Matt Grobar at the Deadline, not The Deadline. Dulce Sloan leaving The Daily Show after 7 years, which is nothing to balk at, especially during a pandemic. Following an award-winning 7-year run on Comedy Central's The Daily Show, correspondent and contributor Dulce Sloan has exited the late-night political news satire. It was an amicable split, and her deal was up. She relocated from New York to L.A. to focus more on acting and stand-up. Her last episode aired in December, and the segment was it wasn't a send-off of anything. It was just kind of there. She's working on a new comedy special and launching a new tour, which is going to include a week-long stint at the Soho Theatre in London in March. She's also a part of The Great North. She's one of the main characters on there, I believe. I believe she plays the wife of Will Forte's character. She's the first person to leave since Roy Wood Jr. left in October 2023. And I always thought she was funny. I think there was a point where when Jon Stewart came back and they started rotating everybody to host every single week, and she was not, like, since I think her last time hosting was like 2 years ago. Whenever she stopped hosting, whenever it was like, and they redid the picture of the correspondence, it was like, Jon Stewart with Desi, Jordan, and forgetting names now. Desi Jordan, Michael Costa, and Ronnie Chang. You never saw Dulce in there, so it was the writing was kind of on the wall early on, and I wish her the best. I like Dulce Sloan; she's very funny. And his last thing, this one comes from the New York Times, written by Emmanuel Morgan. The Kelce takeover doesn't end at 1 a.m. I mentioned this a couple episodes ago, maybe. Jason Kelce, the ex NFL player, current football analyst, and podcaster, is now hosting a late night show on ESPN. I believe it airs at 1 a.m. And it's called, they call it Late Night with Jason Kelce. I wanted to bring this up the week it aired, but then I just never did. I watched the first episode, and it's still you can go to YouTube right now. What they do is a pretty ingenious thing, which I like. I have no qualms against this. What other late night shows, they'll break out segments that'll roughly total, the runtime plus or minus of the regular broadcast show. So you can go to Jimmy Kimmel's page, watch 2 10 or so minute interviews, and then it'll be whatever, and then the monologue. So that's 32 minutes or so, and then whatever thing they have, music or stand up or whatever, and then that'll be 40 some odd minutes. For Jason Kelce's, they call it late night. They load up the entire episode and then they do the breakouts. The first episode has roughly 333,000 views. Excuse me. I saw the second episode. I saw parts of the second episode, and that has 110,000 views as of today's recording. I don't know how many episodes they're doing, but you can go to Jason Kelce's YouTube and check it out. The thing is, episode 2, I'm watching his monologue style thing. I guess I'll just call it monologue. I'm doing quotes. There were no jokes for as long as it was on. And then I went ahead and skipped to the second segment that features Brian Glazer doing a character which the audience does not understand. There's a lot of clapping in this show, and there's not like a lot of laughing. And they keep the audience stuff. The reason why it's like an hour long is because the videos are an hour long instead of 40 some odd minutes long, is because they keep a lot of the commercial switching and things that'll be cut up during the commercial breaks in there. I assume they shoot this show on Friday nights at 10 p.m. or no, not 10 p.m. At like 6 p.m., which is fine in Philadelphia, as I said it before. ESPN keeps going down. I reiterated a lot of this news without even reading the story. Steven Espinoza, the former president of Showtime Sports, who oversaw the division studio and live event programming, said he was not worried that the Kelces were oversaturating the market, citing the extended prominence of the Kardashians. Well, that was a different time period. Jason Kelce declined an interview request. Signed a multi-year deal to be an ESPN analyst last spring after retiring from the NFL. He negotiated a late-night show concept on his contract. He grew up watching Conan O'Brien, and he saw his brother host SNL, and I guess he wants that. Oh, the music is still on. NFL Films is producing the show's 5-week trial run, which ESPN said fit nicely into its lineup during the playoffs. The show was pre-recorded on Friday afternoons and airs on Saturdays at 1 a.m. Eastern on ESPN and ESPN Plus. This is a great little experiment. Again, it is not something I'm going to watch. This is not a show I'm going to be like, I'm going to be covering every episode of. But the idea that ESPN wants to get into something like this, because I believe Katie Nolan had a similar show on ESPN Plus. Stephen A. Smith has a show that is not It is on ESPN Plus, but it's not like First Take or anything. Um, and it can be as much of its own show as it needs to be, but the reason why I'm not picking on Lily Singh, but the reason why Lily Singh's show wasn't successful was not because was one part, not because NBC didn't trust it enough or it didn't support it enough, but the other reason would be is because it tried to straddle two worlds, where, like, if you look at After Midnight, it is very clearly a game show where nothing matters, and then the talk show thing is kind of an afterthought with the couch segment and the monologue. And even the couch segment, I would just say, like, that's more because they still play a game during the couch segment. If you look at other late night shows in the same vein, like let's look at Midnight. At Midnight was still a game show, talk show, a game show, hosted by Guy Branum. That was, yes, they had celebrities, but they weren't really there to promote anything. They just played a game. A lot of these involve games. For this show to succeed, people are going to have to watch it not live but online, and it's going to have to produce some type of numbers that ESPN can go, this is worth us doing for 5 more weeks. And I like the idea that they're running it in succession with, and kind of the same veins as syndicated shows, like how Karamo Brown, he had a syndicated show for a couple of months in small markets on Fox. I think it was Fox or NBC affiliates, to test out if his show Karamo was going to be big. That's how Oprah Winfrey's show happened. They test out these small daytime shows, and then they say, it did well in the Northeast. Let's see if we can syndicate it across the United States at 2 p.m. and if people are going to really enjoy it. And that's what this is how this show is going to have to work. They have to do these trial runs. They can't invest as much as Paramount and CBS invested in After Midnight and redoing that and bringing back At Midnight into After Midnight and dedicating this space at 12:15 to it. They just don't. They have the resources, but they can't just throw it into the schedule where they could probably throw an old a replay of an NBA game or a soccer match or a football game that happened 4 hours prior, or an episode of SportsCenter with Scott Van Pelt that is shot live at 1 a.m. It's so crazy that show is shot live at like 11 or 12. It's so crazy to me. And there's diminishing returns, and you'll see that. I'm looking at, Charles Barkley and Lil Dicky. Their segment from the first episode, or a segment from that first episode, was broken out, and it's just kind of exists, and it doesn't have as many views as that first episode does, but nothing would have beaten that. But again, let's go back to the idea that Jason Kelce's show is straddling late night. If you're going to say you are in this category of late night, a show can air it late at night, but it's not a late night show. A show on Adult Swim, Eric Andre's show, it is a late night show. Yeah, it is a late night. Let me not just air it late. Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty can premiere at 11 p.m. on a Sunday night. That does not make it a late night show. Last Week Tonight can premiere at the same time, and they can say that's a late night show because it is. Just because we have Jason Kelce's show coming on at 1 a.m. and it has the machinations of a late night show, it could just be a chat show. It has to be funny. It has to be as interesting as and engaging as funny. Let's look at the Tonight Show. It's got to be funny. It's got to be, and I don't care. Say what you will. I'm not going to be snide about this. I will be snide about working at CNN. Let's look at the Tonight Show compared to Jason Kelce. They call it late night. Funny, It's got to have engaging things for the audience to enjoy, primarily in a laughing matter. It has to have interesting guests, which they do. They in episode 2, the episode I saw again parts of, they have Joe Buck and Michelle Buck. I'm not going to say her last name. The first part of her hyphenated last name because I don't know how to pronounce it. They had Roger Goodell and Chad Johnson. I don't know who they're going to have tonight, but they'll have somebody. This show can exist. It just needs to be more of a late night show and less of a chat show. Also, it's got to be funny. And I think the problem is, I'm glad that he lives in Philadelphia and he has a home and doesn't want to leave his family and everything. But you have to hire people to write the show. You can hire people to make the show, but you have to have people who can write the show. At CNN, before they shut down the Washington shows and moved everybody to New York or Atlanta. Excuse me, they didn't shut down the Washington shows. Before they shut down people working in Washington, which they did, and moved a production to New York and Atlanta. Meanwhile, there's like robot cameras just moving throughout Washington, the Washington Bureau. Before they did that, imagine people reporting on stories about Washington or New York, things that are happening presidentially in Washington or New York, and then that person not being in Washington or New York. Someone in, Iowa is going, and it happens all the time, but they're trying to get the firsthand report and you're 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 miles away. What I'm saying is Jason Kelce needs, just because they can make the show, they have production staff there, doesn't mean that they have the writers that they need. And it doesn't mean that they have the entertaining people that they need in order to make this show successful. Because they can have all these bright lights. And I think the stage is great. They show way too much of the audience. I don't give a flying crap about the audience. But in the time that I spent watching it, there were no jokes. There was nothing that was fun. They had breakout segments, but they weren't entertaining. Nothing's entertaining until the people, the audience, the guests that are there. That's when it gets entertaining, because I want to see Lil Dicky and Charles Barkley talk. I want to see Roger Goodell. I want to see Joe Buck. I don't want to see Jason Kelce. No offense to him. So after these 5 weeks, and also I like the idea of the show because it gives ESPN something different, something that's not a bunch of men yelling at each other about the word goat, 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 goat. That's why I like ESPN Ocho, because there's so many, you can watch people play handball. You can watch people play, what's it called? Hacky sack. I don't know. What's the thing? The corn slut. Corn slut. Cornhole, that's what it is. Because it's something different. And for me at least, it's fun. So that's what they have to bring to, they call it late night with Jason Kelce. Fun. All right, listen, if you like what you heard here, head to the website, cpluscomedy.com, where we've got me talking to famous people sometimes. If you want to see a video version of this show, go to youtube.com/peoplescomedy. We can see a video version of the other shows. The Constitutionals podcast, which is the entertainment business news podcast, and LinkedIn Logs, which is a jobs podcast. You can follow us on TikTok, Blue Sky, if you still have TikTok, Instagram and Facebook at @C+Comedy, me at Chad Black White. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Bye.